Excuse me. All right, thank you everybody for coming. Excuse me. We'll call the City Council Committee of the Whole for November 22nd, 2021 to order. If the clerk will call the roll, please.
Brereton.
Here.
Flurry.
Here.
Frank. Here. Freeman. Here. McGee.
Here.
Mulhall.
Present.
Porter.
Here.
Prather.
Here.
Snow.
Here.
Stevens.
Here.
10 present.
Okay, thank you. Under public comment,
None.
we do not have any. No public forum, reports of officers, boards, and special committees. We have Heather Wick with us here tonight from Growth Dimensions. There's Heather. Hi, Heather. Would you mind coming up? Thank you. Heather has an update for us regarding Growth Dimensions and some of the things that they've been involved with. So thank you for coming, Heather.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. So I did make sure that each of you have kind of a synopsis of what we've been working on over the past month. A lot of it has been focused on the auto industry. Obviously, we got the notice that there would be some jobs being lost at Stellantis in the next month. But that still hasn't thwarted our efforts on making sure that, things are positive in the future. So we kind of started an initiative earlier in the spring of getting some competitive advantages for industries within Illinois. So luckily our voice was heard, and the governor was here last week to actually sign the Reimagining Electric Vehicles in Illinois Act into law. He made the comment to Pamela Lopez Fettis that I hear that this all started with you. So that was a pretty big acknowledgement from the governor to actually get that passed. So it was bipartisan, which is fantastic. So knowing the state of Illinois, that's hard. So even a bigger accomplishment with only 2 days in the House and unanimously passed in the Senate. So kind of more stuff that we've been doing along kind of the lines of the auto industry is we've been getting a lot of contacts from media sources. So sorry, I'm not used to speaking up here, so I'm shaking a little bit. So we were actually contacted by a lot of the local stations, which is pretty normal. But we were also contacted by Crane's Chicago Business to actually do an article on Stellantis, what's happening in the auto industry in Belvedere, and then the newly signed Rev, Illinois. So Boone County will be presented and featured in the Crane's Business or Chicago Business. Not quite sure when that one will come out, but we just did the interview last week. The other thing that we were contacted on for the county was by Northwest Quarterly. So not sure, you're probably familiar with that publication, but they wanted to do a story on the economic vitality and ongoing initiatives that we have in our community. And so myself and John Wolf sat down with them last week and did an interview with them as well. And we should be in the December issue talking about all good things that are happening in Boone County. 2 final things. Pam just got done doing a podcast with Senator Steve Stadelman, the Sound of the State podcast, where they talked about the Rev, the Reimagining Electric Vehicles in Illinois Act. And I was on a panel as well on the 12th discussing growth dimensions, our venture entrepreneur program, and then just some additional things that we're doing with other partners for business resources in the region. So I know that was kind of a gloss over, but hopefully this will provide you with all the stuff you need. So.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Heather? If anybody has any questions? No?
All right.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Appreciate it.
I might need that later.
Thank you. All right, moving along. Under reports of officers, boards, and special committees as well. Item 1, public safety, unfinished business. We have none. Item 2, public safety, new business. We have a police department life-saving award for Sergeant David Bird. Chief, Woody?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Council, appreciate you providing us with the opportunity to present this to Sergeant Byrd this evening. Before we get into the crux of it, if I could have Mr. Smith go ahead and step up right around here, sir. He is the grandfather of Jessica, who will be the person that Sergeant Byrd had saved. And I'd just like him to kind of set the stage. He was also there that day and can provide some context for you better than I can. Mr. Smith?
Thank you. My name is Daniel Smith. And on that day, about 2 months ago, I was driving Jessica to the hospital because she told me she was having trouble breathing. We didn't get more than a few blocks from her house when she passed out. I didn't have any idea what to do. And I pulled over to the side of the road, called 911, and Officer Byrd showed up within just a few minutes. And instead of hesitating, he got out of the car, looked at her, pulled her out of the car, and began doing CPR on her. I believe, officer, that you saved my daughter's life. I really do. So I want to thank you. Thank you very much. You're welcome. You deserve everything.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Now I'm going to read a brief life-saving award. It can't do justice as Mr. Smith had, but this is essentially what I'll be presenting to Sergeant Byrd in addition to a life-saving certificate. On September 29th, 2021, Daniel Smith contacted the Belvedere Police Department reporting his granddaughter was unresponsive in his vehicle. Sergeant Byrd responded to the 1200 block of South Appleton, located a vehicle parked on the side of the road. Sergeant Byrd observed a female slumped over in the front passenger seat. The female would not respond when Sergeant Byrd tried talking to her, and her grandfather, Daniel, said she needed help. Sergeant Byrd noted the female was cold and clammy to the touch. Sergeant Byrd pulled her from the vehicle, laid her on her back, and noticed her start to take short, shallow breaths every few seconds. Shortly after that, she stopped breathing completely. Sergeant Byrd checked for a pulse, didn't find one. Sergeant Byrd immediately began cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or CPR, chest compressions, and at one point, she did start to breathe on her own, but immediately stopped breathing again. Sergeant Byrd noted her eyes were open but non-responsive, and her pupils were dilated. Sergeant Byrd continued CPR until Belvedere Fire and Lifeline Ambulance arrived on scene. Sergeant Byrd, Belvedere Fire paramedics, and Lifeline Ambulance loaded her into the ambulance, and Sergeant Byrd later learned that once in the ambulance, she started breathing once again. It wasn't until later that Sergeant Byrd learned that she had survived. Sergeant Byrd, your dedication and commitment to the Belvedere community is recognized and greatly appreciated. On behalf of the City of Belvedere and Belvedere Police Department, you're hereby presented with this life-saving award. In addition to the life-saving certificate, Sergeant Byrd will also be presented with a ribbon, a life-saving ribbon that he'll be able to put on his uniform, in addition to the other ribbons that he is also wearing. Sergeant Byrd, as I had stated, wasn't the only person there. As it was that time, as it is many other times, it was a team effort. And I know Chief Ihsa wanted to come up and also recognize the firefighters as well as the paramedics that were there that day. Chief? Thank you.
As we all know, efforts like this to save lives isn't done by just one person or even a couple people, but it takes a lot of folks to make things like this happen. initial CPR by Officer Byrd, and then advanced life support by our firefighters and Lifeline David 12 medics. So Belvedere Fire Engine 101, firefighter Kevin Fox right here. Joe Erber was also in attendance with those guys, assisting them, and Jake Hendrickson. Both of those firefighters are off today. Captain David Burdick also was there, lending his expertise, and also Lifeline David 12, David Hoffman, and Dale Steinhorst. They were all instrumental in this call to save this young lady's life. We heard the family was going to be here in attendance, and these gentlemen all wanted to be here as well. So, thanks, guys.
Gentlemen, before you leave, I would like to personally thank you, and from the city of Belvedere, from all the citizens, thank you very much for everything that you do for the community. I don't think there's anything more desperate than whenever you call for help and one of your loved ones needs immediate help. And Officer Byrd, appreciate it, because there's no doubt about it. If you wouldn't have started performing CPR, Mr. Smith's granddaughter would not be here probably today. So from the city's point of view, we hear many times these days, we hear a lot of things that aren't, I don't believe they're fair regarding law enforcement. I don't believe they're accurate. And I think this shows a better side of law enforcement here in this community and in general. I think people that wear a uniform, I think that they care about their fellow man, and I think they care about the citizens in their community. So from that regard, I want to thank you on behalf of the city and myself. So thank you very much, all of you. Appreciate it. Okay. Shall we move along here? Police Department update, Chief Woody.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few notable things since my last update. Belvedere Police Department responded to specifically the school resource officer for a 17-year-old with a gun at Belvedere High School. The report came in through one of the students. The SRO was able to, along with school staff, make contact with the juvenile and ultimately take him into custody without incident. It doesn't appear that there was any threat other than the fact that there was a loaded firearm in the school. So that juvenile was taken into custody and ultimately lodged. We responded to a fatal car crash at the intersection of Newburgh and Shaw. In addition to that, I had submitted in your packets a letter that was provided to Officer Schwartz from a program participant for the COSAP program. I went ahead and printed off or copied off the letter, so I didn't have to read the entire thing, but I would like to just go over a couple of highlights. This is for specifically Officer Schwartz and the program navigator for CORE, which is the sister program for COSAP, Allie. It says, I really don't know where I would be today if it wasn't for you. I thank God every day for bringing you and Allie into my life. As of today, I'm 20 days sober, and I've had so many great things happen since I've been here. I couldn't have done all this without you. I've never had anybody care so much. I am truly blessed. Like I said, that is just a summary of that entire letter. But I just wanted to, again, just bring it to the attention that we are having a great deal of success, and we are making an impact out in the community through this program. So, last Thursday, the police department had the graduation of our community policing academy. We had several participants. Mr. Mayor, thank you for participating. Sergeant Damon has put in his retirement letter. He'll be retiring May of 2022 after 26 years at the Belvedere Police Department and 29 years total in law enforcement. So that will spark promotional psychologicals and interviews of the next 3 candidates, Detective Deary, Detective Delavan, and Detective Jones are the next 3. So they've been sent to psychologicals and are currently going through the promotional testing process. With some changes in staffing, we look towards the future. Sergeant Damon was our field training coordinator, and we are looking to assign that responsibility to Sergeant Ball. Sergeant Damon will be transitioning with Sergeant Ball over the next several months. We're going to, we anticipate having our recruit, Sunset Winsler, graduate from Suburban Law Enforcement Academy on December 17th. Be attending her graduation on that day. Then she'll come back for field training, and we'll ultimately go through the same program with field training coordinator Damon, but Sergeant Ball will be assisting with that as well and kind of learning the ropes. And in addition to that, and finally, Sergeant Bird will be our new K-9 coordinator. Sergeant Smaha was assigned that responsibility in addition to many of his other responsibilities. So we've taken that one off of his plate. Sergeant Bird was previously a K-9 handler and will be a good fit for that role. I'll take any other questions. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Okay, do we have any questions for Chief Woody? All right, thank you, Chief. We have item C, the acceptance of donation of body armor to K-9 Solo. And do we have a motion to that effect, to accept it? We have a motion by Alderman Snow and a second by Alderman Stevens. Chief, did you have any comments?
Alderpersons, I present to you a request to accept a donation of a protective vest for K-9 Solo from nonprofit organization Vested Interest in Canines, Inc. K-9 Solo's vest is sponsored by the Mazeka Family Foundation. If approved, delivery would be expected within 8 to 10 weeks. Vested Interest in Canines, Inc., established in 2009, 501c3 charity whose mission is to provide bulletproof and stab protective vests and other assistance to dogs of law enforcement related agencies throughout the United States. This potentially life-saving body armor for four-legged canine officers is U.S. made, custom fitted, and NIJ certified. That's National Institute of Justice. They regulate body armor and ammunition. Since its inception, Vested Interest in Canines, Inc. has provided over 4,450 vests to canines in all 50 states at a value of $6.9 million, made possible by both private and corporate donations. Programs open to U.S. dogs that are at least 20 months old, actively employed and certified with law enforcement or related agencies. Canines with expired vests are also eligible to participate. There are estimated 30,000 law enforcement canines throughout the U.S. I would request a motion to approve accepting the donation of a protective vest for K-9 Solo from Vested Interest in Canines, Inc.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor regarding that. Is there any questions? Alderman Snow.
What happens to the old vest? Just curious.
Well, this one's easy because Solo's so new, he doesn't have a vest. So,
Okay. Any other questions for Chief? Woody? All right, hearing none, we have the motion on the floor to accept the donation of the protective vest for K-9 Solo from vested interest in K-9s, Inc. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay. Motion passed, thank you. Thank you, Chief. We have item D, the fire department update. Chief Ihsa.
Thank you, Mayor. Since our last report, your fire department has responded to 271 calls for service. Training. This month, the fire department had logged 745 hours of training for its members, and that's an average of 32 hours per man. Excuse me. For the year, the department has a total of 8,997 hours, or an average of 333 hours per firefighter. These hours include all fire service disciplines, such as fire suppression and rescue, extrication, water rescue, and emergency medical services. Additionally, this month, we provided outside experts to educate our members in mental health awareness. On top of that, we continue to encourage our members to exercise daily for physical fitness. Apparatus update. In September, I came to the council requesting permission to get quotes for a new engine to replace our 20-year-old engine, number 102. Because of the ongoing COVID situation, manufacturers are not producing fire trucks at the same rate as pre-COVID. Demonstrators or program trucks are hard to come by, and the ones that are out there get purchased quickly. For example, in October, I was set to bring you quotes and information on 3 separate engines, one being a perfect fit for our downtown station number 1. The price tag was $428,000 for this unit. 2 days prior to the council meeting, I was informed that a county in Georgia purchased the entire fleet of that particular model, 16 in total. So there's none available. Recently, Public Works came across a similar problem trying to purchase a truck for their department. As soon as a truck came available, it would go off the market. To counter this, you allotted Public Works up to an agreed upon dollar figure. I will come to council in December to request an agreed upon dollar figure also, so that we can act quickly in securing an engine that is a demonstrator or presently that was on the assembly line. Excuse me. Safety. In the wake of that horrible event that happened in Waukesha last night, I wanted to assure the people in this room and anyone watching from home that your city departments, fire, police, and public works work well together to provide as safe of an environment for our local events as we reasonably can. Some of these measures for large gatherings utilize an IAP, or also known as an Incident Action Plan. That basically is a game plan for fire, police, and public works to operate seamlessly in the event of a tragic incident such as the one in Wisconsin Sunday night. Additionally, we have gone to hardened cement jersey barriers instead of plastic and wood. This is especially suited for an event like Paint on State, which happens during Heritage Days, where hundreds of people participate. As much as we try to make it safe for all, it must be remembered that we cannot anticipate all potential danger. It is everyone's responsibility to be aware of their surroundings. Excuse me. Does anyone have any questions?
Chief, I just have one comment. Regarding the fire truck, I think we had placed 2 aldermen that were going to be on a committee. I think it was Alderman Snow and Alderman Stevens. And so as we move forward, we'll want to make sure that whatever specs we decide to go for, that they're involved.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep, certainly.
Thank you. Any other questions, Chief Ihsa? Chief, did you have another comment?
Yeah, I just want to wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and I do agree that, you know, what happened in Waukesha is one of those things. We had chatted about it today at the department head meeting, and everybody thinks that it was not going to happen here, and I'm sure Waukesha never had any clue that it would happen there. I think we learn from our history. We learn that things like that can happen, and so whatever we need to do, we have talked about that to make sure that if something like that was to occur, obviously they weren't prepared probably as much as they hoped they would be. But as I said, we learn from those types of incidents and we can do better, and I know that we will do better. So it's just a horrible tragedy. I can't even fathom anymore that someone would do that, but there is a level of preparedness that we'll take here, and I know you guys have, I know both you guys have done that, and that's most important because totally senseless, and it's a different world we live in now, and we'll have to prepare for that. So that's all the comments I have on that, and thank you. Anything else, Chief Ihsa?
No, sir.
Okay. Any questions for Chief Ihsa? Anybody else have any questions or comments? No? Okay. All right, and then you did have item E regarding the acceptance of a donation, Chief, and item F belongs to you as well.
So item E, acceptance of donation from Magna Exteriors in an amount of $500.
Okay. Do we have a motion to that effect? Alderman Fleury, second by Alderwoman Mulhall. Okay, any discussion regarding the acceptance of the $500 donation?
I was just curious if you have plans for what you're going to use it for, or just general equipment?
I would anticipate using just for equipment purchase. It'll go in the trusting hands of Ms. Hanson, and then we'll go from there. So, yeah.
Thank you, Alderman Porter. Any other questions regarding this donation? Okay, seeing and hearing none, we have a motion then to accept the $500 and a second to accept the $500 donation from Magna Exteriors of Belvedere. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Say nay. Okay, motion passed. Thank you. And Chief, item F.
Okay. F, the sale of a 2008 Dodge Charger. Seeking permission to sell our 2008 Dodge Charger. VIN number. Go ahead. Okay, thank you.
It's noted. Thank you.
All right. Very well.
Just thorough.
So, yeah, to the highest bidder via eBay. Does anyone have any questions pertaining to the sale of our 2008 Dodge Charger?
Okay. Do we have a motion on the floor then to go ahead and give permission to sell? Alderwoman Prather, second by Alderman Stevens. That's all right. So do we have any other questions, any discussion, any comments? Alderman Snow?
It barely runs, yes. Yep. It's in our basement at Station 1. We typically use this car for guys to go to training outside of the city, and it came to us pretty well used already, and I think right now we're well over 150,000 miles on it.
Okay. Alderwoman Freeman, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. So what do you plan on replacing this with?
We have the Chevy Tahoe that's presently used by the officer of the day, Station 1. So that'll go downstairs.
Okay. Any other questions for Chief Ihsa? Okay, hearing none, then we have motion and a second for permission to sell the 2008 Dodge Charger with the associated VIN number to the highest bidder via eBay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed. Thank you. Is that all you had? Okay, thank you. All right, item 3, finance and personnel unfinished business, we had none. Item 4, finance and personnel new business, finance department update, Director Shannon Hansen.
Thank you. In your packets, you have an informational memo letting you know that we have sent out requests for proposals for independent audit services. They are due back December 14th, so we'll bring you additional information after that. And we did receive word today that we received an additional $1,765 in ARPA funds, which is the reallocation of funds for those that were either declined or were not responded to by the September 30th deadline. So those will be on their way to us. And then item B, you've got the 2021 tax levy request from the Belvedere Firefighters Pension Board, and also the same request from the Belvedere Police Pension Board, which is informational at this point in time. Council will be asked to accept the reports and therefore the levy request at the December 6th meeting.
Mr. Mayor, it is for informational purposes, just to make it clear for the agenda coming up at the December meeting, might be appropriate to have a motion to forward acceptance of the 2021 tax levy request from the Firefighters Pension Board to council for acceptance.
Okay. Very good. Do we have a motion to that effect in a second? Alderman Snow, second by Alderman Stevens. Any questions, comments? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then we also need one.
The same motion
for the
for item
police.
C, the Police Pension Board 2021 tax levy request.
Okay. Could we have a motion to that effect then? Alderman Prather, second by Alderman Fleury. Any discussion, any questions, concerns regarding that motion? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion passed, thank you. And item D, Ms. Hanson, discussion of the tax levy.
There is no additional documentation in your packets. It's just an opportunity to have those discussions prior to your December 6th meeting.
Okay. All right. We will go to, is there any questions for Ms. Hanson before we move down the line here? Okay. Okay, thank you. Item E, we have a Comcast cable franchise agreement renewal, and the city attorney probably can enlighten us with this, please.
Sure. In your package this evening is the renewal agreement with Comcast with respect to the cable franchise for the city of Belvedere. This comes up currently about every 10 years. Starting about 10 years ago, the landscape completely changed in the state of Illinois. Actually, it's more like 15 years ago, but that's beside the point. Cable is one of the most regulated industries in the world. You find it hard to believe. They're regulated at the federal level in something called the Cable Act that also regulates our relationship with Comcast. They're regulated at the state level through the Illinois Cable and Video Competition Law as well as the municipal code. And then they're also, of course, regulated to some extent at the local level. The Cable Act requires cable companies to get franchises to operate within geographical areas. Illinois modified that about 10 or 15 years ago, and they are no longer required to have a franchise agreement. they can go get something called a state license, which would allow them to operate within the city. We'd still receive our 5% franchise fee, and they still have to follow the state standards for customer service and things like that, but they really don't have to have a franchise anymore. Comcast elects to go the franchise route because they want to maintain that relationship with the municipalities. It also provides a little bit of security because that video competition law does have a tendency, it's got a sunset clause, and they keep extending it. But that way, if it ever does go away, they have that relationship built in. The renewal in front of you is really no different than the existing agreement. There are some tweaks to it that really are just minor in nature as far as things like, gosh, it was kind of silliness what I was asking for, so nothing significant. The most important parts, we still get our 5% franchise fee. We still get the ability to have cable, Comcast Channel 20 as the city's Comcast provider. One of the significant changes that really is actually very minor is there's a change in federal law that is incorporated into the agreement, and that change is Comcast will frequently give a free service drop at the basic level to governmental buildings, city hall, schools, fire departments, things like that. The federal law has changed on that. They still provide that, but they're allowed to deduct the cost of that from our franchise fee. My guess is it's minuscule in nature, and really, I don't think they know how many cable drops they've got anyway. So I don't think they can actually track it very well. So the recommendation would be to forward to City Council adoption of the cable franchise agreement renewal with Comcast Cable. Of important note, it is not exclusive. Any other cable operator can come in and seek an agreement with the City of Belvedere to operate a cable system if they want to. Obviously, it's not likely because the upfront costs of doing that are very high, but they could. There is and it's in every cable agreement I've ever seen, but there is, of course, a most favored nations clause that if we give them something that we did not give Comcast, then Comcast can piggyback on that as well, which is fair and very routine. This will require a public hearing that would come back at the end of December. So it'd be introduced for first reading if it's approved tonight at the first meeting in December, and the second reading would occur at the last meeting in December with a public hearing at the same time.
Okay, then, could we get a motion to forward this renewal of the Comcast franchise agreement to the city, to the council meeting? Motion to that effect. Okay, motion by Alderwoman Prather, second by Alderman McGee. We also have Joan Sage here with
Yep.
Comcast. Joan, how are you? I didn't know if you, there's probably something that you may want to say that obviously wasn't covered here this evening, but if you do, feel free to come up and step up to the podium.
And I meant to introduce her. I even wrote her name down my agenda so I wouldn't forget, and then I forgot.
Nice to
Joan.
see you, Joan.
Thank you, Mayor
Thank you for
and
coming.
Council. It's just a pleasure to be here, and the only thing that I guess I would like to add is that the agreement is required, but ordinarily what happens is it goes into a file, and have you folks looked at it in the last 10 years, the last one?
Yeah, I did.
You did? Okay.
About a year and a half ago, and he said we need to renew it.
Okay, all right.
Right on time.
There you go, perfect. So that is required, but to me, what is most important is that you know that you have me. You don't have to look in the file. You can call me up. You can email me if there's ever any questions at all about anything. Please feel free to come to me. If there's something that you hear that sounds a little odd, or if any of your constituents have a question about anything, please do feel free to come and let me know. And I'll make sure. I think the last time I was here, I gave you each my card, but you will receive that again. I don't know if I have enough with me tonight, but I will for the renewal date. So.
And I will say, at the risk of throwing Joan under the bus, she's very responsive. I did have a couple occasions where customers had limbs fall in lines and things like that, and it was a little bit slow getting service out there. And one email to Joan, and they're out there within the next day. So
I always know I can't fix it myself, but we have the people that will. So we're happy to, and things will break, things will happen, but we will take care of it. Any other?
Is there any questions? Alderman Stevens for Joan.
Do you at Comcast have any provisions to fix channel 20? Because people have to turn it up incredibly loud on their televisions to hear it. That
We-
is one of the complaints that I get.
We've addressed that in the past, and that actually was fixed. It's not on their end. Whatever it is, it's not on their end. The biggest problem in actually talking to people, and I'm glad to see your fingers on the button, the usual problem with the volume is people not talking towards their mics or actually not holding the mic down. That's the usual cause of the problem. But even when we first started Channel 20, we had that complaint, and they worked on their end to adjust what's called the gain, the volume, accordingly, and it's not them.
Well, I've watched past ones, and I'm not exactly the lowest speaking person, but I can't even hear myself talk.
All we can do is put out there what you send us. So if there is an issue, it usually would be on your end, but if it's something that we need to work with you on, we certainly, will do that. Anything
Okay.
else?
Anything else for Joan, Ms. Sage?
And Brent had called me earlier today regarding where the IHSA football finals on Friday and Saturday will be. And it's 13.1. Our folks, I contacted them, and what we do is we send out, as with you, we send out what they send us. So ordinarily, whatever is on 13.1 will be on 435, the Comcast channel. I'm waiting to hear back from WREX to have that confirmed. What they usually do is, sometimes it's on the sports, but they will, before Friday, they will say, these are the channels where you can watch that. But I will confirm with you that it is 435. Anything else? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joan. Appreciate you coming. Nice to see you again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate your help. All right. So we have a motion and a second then on the floor. All those in favor of the renewal with Comcast being forwarded, please say aye.
Aye.
If there's any opposed? Okay, motion passed. Thank you. Okay, under item 5, other, Brent?
Thank you, Your Honor. Memo in your packet, 5A, request to vacate an alley. It's the unimproved alley off of Star Street between 8th Avenue and 9th Avenue. We have received a request to vacate that alley from one of the adjoining property owners. It was identified as alley SW5 in our inventory of alleys that was presented a few months ago, a copy of which is attached to the memo. We sent notices of the proposed vacation to all the adjoining property owners, and I have not received any comments back as of tonight. The alley is 10 feet in width. There are no city-owned utilities located within the alleyway, and I would recommend that we vacate this alley at this time, which will go through the process of the public hearings and the amendment by ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Could we get a motion to that effect, please? Motion by Alderman Stevens, second by Alderman Porter. Any other questions regarding Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you. So Brent, this is an unimproved alley, so we're not currently maintaining it. The residents are mowing it and such?
That's correct, and the request came as a result of a property owner that wants to do some fencing work on the property, and that's what they generated the request.
Okay, so I generally don't like the idea because I have neighbors that live across the street from me, and they had an alley in between South State and Garfield Avenue. The people on the corner of 9th Street have a fourplex apartment building or something right there by the hospital, and at one time they petitioned for that alley to be vacated so that they could build a garage that faces 9th Street. Well, since then, obviously, people have moved out of the other houses, and my neighbors over there are like, man, I would give anything if I would have lived here at the time that they requested to have that alley vacated, because I would have been